What's up everybody, Commander Sanctum here, and today we have a brand new deck tech using Mendicant Core Guidelight. Mendicant is a star 3 robot for blue-white that has power equal to the number of artifacts you control, start your engines, and a max speed ability of whenever you cast an artifact spell you may pay 1. If you do, copy it. Now, there are a few different ways you can make a Mendicant deck, albeit all of them being some form of an artifact deck due to its abilities. For this deck tech, we're going to be making a Voltron deck, specifically around equipment cards. Voltron seems perfect for Mendicant since its power will, at a base, be equal to the number of equipments and other artifacts you have, while he'll also get additional power and abilities from the equipment themselves. With that, let's get into the card highlights. Since we're going for an artifact-based Voltron deck, we of course need a lot of equipment. There are equipments that come in many different flavors. To start out with, we have a number that can greatly increase Mendicant's power when equipped. This would include cards such as Blackblade Reforged, which gives a much bigger boost the longer the game goes on, Colossus Hammer, which gives a huge boost in power for a higher equip cost, and Excalibur Sword of Eden, which should be free to cast relatively quickly given the theme of the deck, while also giving a huge boost in power and vigilance to boot. Unfortunately, the Blackblade and Excalibur can't really be copied with Mendicant's ability since they're both legendary, but having even one of them is likely going to be more than enough. Next up, we have a few more equipments that can give major power and toughness boosts, but in a slightly different way. Nettlecyst, Thrawn Power Suit, and Golemskin Gauntlets all have one thing in common. They boost Mendicant's power based on equipments we have out and equipped on him. Nettlecyst takes this even further, as it doesn't care specifically about equipment like the other two, but artifacts in general, meaning any mana rocks or artifact lands also count towards the power increase. The Power Suit even provides a bit of protection for Mendicant, since it gives Ward 2, making him just a little bit harder to kill with targeted removal. Speaking of protection, making sure we could keep our commander alive is absolutely critical in a Voltron deck that focuses on making one creature ginormous. To help with this, we have Champion's Helm, which can give our Mendicant hexproof and thus immune to targeted removal, and Mithril Coat, which protects him from destroy effects. Potentially the best protection equipment we have, however, is Robe of Stars, which lets us completely phase Mendicant out for a low cost of 2 mana. Not only does the equipped creature get phased out with Robe of Stars, but everything attached does as well, meaning you can actually protect equipped equipments from targeted removal if need be. Finally, we have some simply generically good equipment. Hammer of Nazan makes it so any equipment entering the battlefield can be auto-attached to a creature, preventing the need to spend mana to equip. This is particularly useful in the case of something like Colossus Hammer, which has a very high equip cost, but low mana cost. Umezawa's Jitte is a nice modular equipment that can let you pump Mendicant, kill a creature, or gain life depending on what you may need in that specific situation. Masterwork of Ingenuity can be anything on the battlefield you want it to be, as long as it's non-legendary of course, making it a great way to get extra utility or power onto Mendicant. Since we're so focused on artifact equipments, including some effects that reduce the cost of said equipments can be very useful. Ethereum Sculptor and Foundry Inspector are your more common artifact cost reduction effects, helping us cast those equipments earlier or saving us mana for equip costs. And speaking of equip costs, that's exactly where Forensic Gadgeteer comes in, reducing our equip costs by 1, while also letting us generate some clue tokens to get in extra card draw. Alongside cost reduction, we also have a number of choices that can provide additional utility around our theme of equipments. First up, we have a number of cards that help us more easily equip them onto our Mendicant. Sigarda's Aid is the most well-known card that has this effect, letting us auto-equip an equipment when it enters, similar to the Hammer of Nazan. Pure Steel Paladin makes equip cost 0, so long as you have enough artifacts, and even gives us some nice card draw when they enter. Forge Anew also makes equip cost 0, but only for the first one in your turn. However, it also makes equip abilities instant on your turn, and recurs an equipment from the graveyard when it enters, making it a very solid choice for its utility. Like the previous cards, we have a few that can also auto-attach equipments in specific scenarios. Halvar God of Battle will let us do this on each combat, meaning we can even equip on our opponent's turns to save extra mana on getting our Mendicant suited up. The Double Strike ability also fits very well with our Voltron theme. Codsworth Handy Helper both protects our Mendicant with Ward 2 and gives us some mana ramp for equipment spells, while also letting us attach an equipment on our turn. Finally, my personal favorite one, Arden Intrepid Archaeologist, lets us attach as many equipments as we want to a single creature during our combat step. The best part about this card is that we can attach them all to any creature, even our opponents. While that probably won't really matter in this particular deck, it's an important capability to remember in case it does become relevant. Mantle of the Ancients is actually an aura, but it acts as great recursion for our equipment in cases where an opponent casts something like a Vandal Blast. Not to mention, it does give a power buff similar to the Thrawn Power Suit, which is a nice little bonus. Open the Vaults also can help us recur our equipments from the graveyard, but this one needs to be played with a bit more caution. It does affect everyone, so if you're facing off against an opponent who is playing something like an Enchantress deck or a similar equipment-based deck, you may end up helping them more than yourself. I also wanted to bring up a few good removal spells quick, that work well with the Voltron style deck. Since we're focusing on killing our opponents with a single creature, Mendicant in this case, mass removal that leaves everyone a single creature is an effective way to wipe the board without impacting us too much. Single combat is a great way to do this, especially since it's a sacrifice effect, making it effective against indestructible creatures. Slash the Ranks will kill all non-commander creatures, which is perfectly fine for us, since our deck is focused on using Mendicant and Mendicant alone. Finally, we have some good utility cards that work well with the overall theme of the deck. Stoneforge Mystic is a must include, giving us an equipment tutor alongside a way to get those higher CMC equipments onto the battlefield easier. Silent Arbiter fits well with the Voltron style theme, as it makes it so opponents can only block with one creature. Our whole deck is focused on having a single creature attack, so the attack ability won't affect us at all. The Arbiter is also great tech against token or go wide decks as well. Sai, Master Thopterist will easily give us an army of 1/1 Thopters in a deck like this, while also giving us additional card draw if need be. Speaking of card draw, we have some good recurring sources of draw that fit with our theme. Vidalcan Archmage and Shram Senior Artificer will do basically the same thing in this deck, drawing a card whenever we cast our equipments. The Archmage does state Artifact, however, meaning it will also trigger off of any Mana Rocks or even Mendicant himself as well. Mask of Memory is another equipment we can put on our Mendicant to both make him bigger with his own effect, as well as let us draw 2 cards when he smacks our opponents. Here's an example deck list utilizing all the previously mentioned cards. Additional cards include many more equipments, like Whispersilk Cloak and Shadow Spear, some nice artifact-based land ramp in Sword of the Animist and Solemn Simulacrum, and more artifact-based card draw in one with the Machine and Voyage Home. Another thing I'd like to point out as being very important are the artifact lands, like Ancient Den and Seed of the Synod. These lands count towards Mendicant's power, since they are actually artifacts, meaning there's no reason to not play them. I also thought this would be a good deck for the Tron lands, that is, Urza's Tower, Power Plant, and Mine. We have enough colorless spells in this deck that I think they make sense to play. Mendicant can be a very good Voltron deck when paired with equipments. Due to his power being equal to the number of artifacts you control, it'll be very easy to get him into commander damage range with just a few equipments and Mana Rocks or artifact lands. Even if not one-shotting an opponent, you'll be able to very easily pressure your opponents with ever-increasing commander damage with very little effort. He also only costs 2 mana, meaning this pressure could start very early in the game. Unfortunately, there's no real easy way in the deck to make sure we can get max speed online as soon as possible, since we're all about smacking our opponents with Mendicant and not much else. That being said, the artifact copy effect is not as relevant for us as it may be for other decks. While it would certainly be nice, Mendicant's power can get overwhelming with the small number of equipments it affects, so we won't really need it in most situations. And needless to say, this deck can be absolutely blown away if an opponent casts something like a Vandal Blast or Bane of Progress. While we do have some cards that can help us recover from this, it would be extremely damaging to us and could take us out of the game if we don't have them. Every artifact deck has this sort of weakness, however, and it doesn't happen as much as you may think, so it's more of a calculated risk, I'd say. If the thought of suiting up a giant robot and smacking your opponents with him sounds appealing to you, give this deck a try. I hope you enjoyed watching this deck tech on Mendicant Core Guidelight. The full deck list outlined in this video can be found at the Architect link at the top of the description. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to drop a like and comment, as well as subscribe to the channel for more Magic content. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.